Across the country, hidden, or perhaps just ignored, the adult victims of sexual exploitation. Trapped in a pincer-like grip by their abusers, but fighting to get anyone else to believe them.
And he just hit his full swing across my face, and I just was in shock. I couldn't understand what I'd done wrong.
Still be here, still going.
This woman is a survivor of almost unimaginable things. In her mid-40s, she's been a victim of exploitation virtually her whole adult life. It began when a man offered her somewhere to stay and ended with her held captive for years, forced to sell sex on the streets. Extreme violence routine.
He attacked us with samurai swords, and I was trying to get away from him in the house, but he just continued to attack us. He started handcuffing us to the cooker in the kitchen, and he would leave the light on in there, but all the lights in the house would be off, so I'd never see where he was, and I never had any clothes on. He would just handcuff us there for hours and hours and hours.
Lucy, not her real name, would often be thrown out naked onto the streets, neighbours turning a blind eye, and even police, on one occasion looking for her perpetrator, accused of the attempted murder of another woman, offering only the lamest of advice.
The police came one night, and the lights were just blue everywhere in the street. I remember a policeman coming up to me asking my name, and I couldn't even say my name. I couldn't speak because I was so scared. And he said to me, you need to go home. You need to get away from here. And I thought, why can't you just take us away from here?
For Lucy, it sums up how little is still understood about the sexual exploitation of adults.
Oh, I've heard somebody passing saying, well, if it was that bad, you would just leave. That's a typical thing. And I go, hang on a minute. No, it's not. It's not. And, well, she went back. Yeah, because she's absolutely terrified of her life and her family's life. What would you do?
Over the past decade or so, the scandals in Rotherham and Rochdale exposed horrific sexual exploitation of children. But the sexual exploitation of adult women remains largely hidden. Across the country, women are being groomed or coerced, often victims of extreme violence, their lives entirely controlled. But because they're adults, the authorities often see them as consenting to their own abuse, leaving the women with little support and rarely getting justice against their perpetrators. How likely is justice when victims, believed to be primarily women and girls, are not even counted? There's no official examination of the extent of this problem. Now there's a growing call for adult victims to be recognised in law just as children are, forcing the authorities to provide better support. The MP Jess Phillips is leading the charge in Parliament.
The government would argue that these women face many challenges, domestic abuse, some are exploited by gangs, that they're covered by the many laws which exist already. Is that not true?
I mean, it's true in a sense that it's written down on paper in various different places, but it makes absolutely no difference on the ground. It means that there's a jack of all trades and a master of none. Is that these women need a specific and targeted prevention strategy and service in order to meet their specific needs. We look at them and we say they're not good enough in the system, and so we allow rapists to stay on the streets. So we've got to decide which we want more. Do we want a system that can hear women regardless of their complexities, or one that leaves abusers on every street in our country?
They'd take us to a hotel or just a crappy house, and I would never go to sleep. I would feel like I would have to have sexual intercourse with them in case they just raped us anyways.
Casey, also not her real name, was groomed by a gang when she was just a teenager.
I sort of gave up really, and I would just let everybody sort of pass us around.
Her perpetrators were convicted, but like many other victims of exploitation, she was left traumatised and with drug and alcohol problems, which in turn left her exposed to exploitation as an adult too.
I'm petrified. They might have got a jail sentence, but they're not going to be there forever, and I'm absolutely petrified.
Casey is getting help at Changing Lives, a specialist service in the North East, where there's been a 179% increase in women disclosing they've experienced sexual violence in the first 4 months of the pandemic. They're in no doubt that there are many victims across the country left entirely alone.
So the scale is huge and the abuse is going on. When professionals, for me, say in various different areas that the abuse is not happening in their towns and cities, that makes me really concerned. The sad fact is, the more work as you have, the more quickly there would be, that caseloads would be full.
And if you had better funding, you could support many more women.
Absolutely.
And you'd have no doubt that you'd find many more women who have been
No doubt
through
at
this.
all. No doubt at all.
Casey is now working towards English and maths exams and wants to help other women going through the same thing. Hope, she says, is vital.
There's help out there, and that people should be able to reach out without getting turned away.
And how confident are you, though, moving forward?
Keep trying.
So for these women and the people who work to help them, much is resting on tomorrow's new strategy from the government. Will the victims of adult sexual exploitation feature? Will it offer them the support they need? Or once again, will they remain neither seen nor heard?
Jackie Long there, and the Home Office said it would respond to our report in due course.